Hello, I'm Oliver Price at Wansbroughs Solicitors. Welcome to my regular video blog, my blog about data protection and the GDPR. We're now a couple of weeks into the new rules. I'm going to talk about something that's come up a lot recently for clients and during seminars, and that's an expression called data protection by design and by default. And I'm going to explain what that means. But firstly, I was just going to mention this week the Carphone Warehouse data breach. So Dixon's Carphone Warehouse have had a massive data breach which they believe has led to the hacking of credit card details. Some 105,000 details have been taken. That's a massive breach, and I've been saying for quite some time that under the new regime we're likely to see on large data breaches some quite significant fines. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one develops. I expect, as Carphone Warehouse have already been in court with the ICO and had a fine earlier this year of £400,000, that we really are going to see a significant fine. You'll remember that the old limit was £500,000. And if you know it, the new limit's gone up to 20 million euros or 4% of worldwide turnover. The ICO is quite reasonable in terms of how she prosecutes those cases, but I'm expecting that that's going to be the first quite significant fine under the new regime. So data protection by design and default is not a brand new concept. It's been there since we've had the Data Protection Act for over 20 years, but it has been enshrined now as an obligation, so within Article 25 of the GDPR. And what does that mean? In the simplest terms, by design and by default means that data controllers and processors must consider the overall design of their data protection systems, and also by default who is able to access data, and that this must be done in a way that minimises the number of people able to access data and keeps as secure as possible the data that's held. So in simple terms, you need to think carefully about how systems are set up, and there are a few points I'm just going to run through that flow from that. So I've got three things to mention. One is what I call access controls. So that's really who can access your system. Do they need to use passwords to get through to access it? What's the security of your system? So firstly, access controls. Think about that. And secondly, is think about passwords and security. So how many people can access your system? Are passwords shared? What's their length? So we're talking about password security here. And the third one is just generally make the link between your data protection system and cybersecurity. Because remember, some of the biggest fines, and I talked earlier about Carphone Warehouse, and that was a good example of failure of cybersecurity. Think carefully about how you're designing those systems and what your designers are doing for you, and look for gaps. You need to think about testing your own systems and testing the people who use them. And I know it's a funny expression, but within the Cyber Essentials scheme, which you can use to look at your computer systems, you should consider what's called penetration testing. That is getting a third-party provider to try and hack into your systems, send emails to your staff, and see whether they respond to those sort of phishing spoof type emails, and see what their human response is when there's an attempt on your system. And if you do all of those things and look carefully at the design of your system, that should all make sure that you're fully compliant with Article 25. Cyber Essentials, I mentioned a moment ago, is a good system. It's a good accreditation system for just getting into this area. So as I said a moment ago, I hope you're now up and running with the new GDPR. If you've got any questions about either this vlog or just want to speak to me, feel free to get in touch from the details that are shown at the end here.